Rudy Gobert has tested positive for the coronavirus.
The NBA is suspending the season.
This is crazy. This can't be true.
What I felt before the game was this touch of anxiety. What I felt in the aftermath of that game was the beginning of fear.
To our audience, stay safe, take care of each other. We get through this together.
Good morning and welcome into First Take on this anniversary of the sports shutdown. Stephen A. Smith, Molly Karen Rose, Max Kellerman, gentlemen, so good to be with you. And we have a very special guest, Stephen A., as you just mentioned, who we owe a debt of gratitude towards. So let's get right into it. I don't want to waste a moment. 1 year ago, the NBA season abruptly came to a halt as Jazz center Rudy Gobert's COVID-19 test came back positive. Moments before the tip-off of a game, the NBA announced that night that it was on hold until further notice. This was the beginning of postponements and cancellations in the world of sports as we mark the anniversary of the sports stoppages. We are pleased to welcome in the Director of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci. And Dr. Fauci, let me tell you this, from the bottom of my heart, from all of us here at ESPN, thank you so much for all the sacrifice, for your service, for the sleepless nights, for the long days, to your family, to your staff. We owe you so much gratitude, and we're so grateful to have you running point for our country here. So thanks for being with us on First Take.
Thank you. Appreciate you saying that.
Of course, it's the truth. All right, let's get right into it here. So one thing we want to know as sports fans, obviously we all miss, is being in attendance. When do you think we could potentially see arenas, stadiums back at full capacity?
You know, when you're talking about stadiums outdoor, that's obviously an easier thing to get going rather than indoors. But what we have in our favor that we did not have last time, we had to make a decision. You just showed the clips of the very difficult decisions that were made. We have a vaccines, plural, now. And every day, at least 2 million people, and will likely more than that, every day will get vaccinated to the point where I believe we are approaching the normal situation we would like to see with regards to sports, particularly easier with outdoor like baseball. I mean, I can't tell you right now exactly what's going to happen, but I can tell you as we get into the spring and summer, you're going to see a progressive increase in the capability of getting people in the stands, maybe not full capacity right away, but certainly less than what we saw, more than what we saw last year, and less restrictions. We have some things that we need to address, like these variants, which might put us off course a bit. But I think if we get people vaccinated at a very high rate, I think we can get around and obviate the problem with the variants. So big time getting people vaccinated, that's going to be the answer.
Dr. Fauci, the NBA had a bubble and completed their season successfully, no positive cases. The NFL and Major League Baseball both didn't have bubbles, and MLB had a shortened season, but the NFL had a full season and played the Super Bowl. Now, we're in a situation with over 500,000 American deaths from COVID. So their resumption of kind of more normal life maybe than ought to have been had, there was a price to pay, obviously, in human life. In retrospect, what do you think about the NFL's season, completing the season in the pandemic without a bubble?
You know, I think they were able to do it. They had some setbacks, as you know, unlike some of the other sports. You don't want to be criticizing what people did. They were able to get through the season. They were able to have a successful Super Bowl. They paid a bit of a price for it now. Looking forward, I think next season we're going to see something entirely different than that. We're going to see an approach towards normality if, in fact, Max, as I said, we continue to get as many people vaccinated as we possibly can.
Dr. Fauci, again, thank you for being on the show. Honored to have you here. I asked this question because obviously we've heard the news. We know the numbers to some degree about how this has ravaged the African American community. I want you to speak to how important it is for African Americans to go out and get vaccinated. Obviously, everybody, all American citizens, everybody across the world should be getting vaccinated, but particularly as it pertains to the African American community, could you speak to the concerns that you have for the need for African Americans to go and get vaccinated, sir?
You know, Stephen A., it's critical. I mean, totally critical. African Americans and Hispanics have suffered very much disproportionately with this outbreak, not only in getting infected at a higher rate, purely on the basis of the jobs that many of them have as essential workers in society. Superimpose upon that when they do get infected, because of the fact that they have a greater incidence and prevalence of underlying medical conditions that make them more likely to get a serious outcome. And if you look at the hospitalizations and the deaths among African Americans and Hispanics, it's absolutely more than the general population and whites in general. So we've got to get them vaccinated. We can understand and empathize with some of the hesitancy they have, because history has not treated them very well when it comes to the relationship between the federal government and medical programs. They keep harking back, understandably, to the Tuskegee experiments. Most of the African Americans who are right now alive and getting ready to get vaccinated weren't even born decades ago during that time. But it's a memory that gets passed down generation to generation. So we've got to respect that hesitancy and try and overcome it by explaining why this is truly a safe and effective vaccine that will be life-saving, not only for them, for their families, and for the African American community in general. It's not going to be an easy task, but we've got to put all kinds of effort, not only to get them vaccinated, but importantly, to get them easy access to the vaccine. Because right now, if you look at the percentage of people that have gotten vaccinated, African Americans are disproportionately lower. So we've got to outreach to them with community vaccine centers in areas that are demographically very well represented by minorities. We've got to have mobile units to go out in poorly accessible areas. We've got to stock the pharmacies in neighborhoods in which African Americans prevail. These are the kind of things we need to do. We've got to make it better to access, and we've got to understand their concerns.
Dr. Fauci, with respect to life, not just sports, how long until there is a normal, or is there a new normal in the foreseeable future?
Well, I think it's going to be gradual, Max. I think we've already seen the CDC come out with the first in what will be multiple installments of what vaccinated people can do. You know, the first step in a family setting, vaccinated together with vaccinated or vaccinated with unvaccinated. You're going to be hearing more and more as the weeks go by about the things that we can recommend that vaccinated people can do. So we're going to see a continual approach towards normality. I hope by the time we get to the end of the summer, the beginning of the fall, we'll be very close to what we would consider normal.
And when you say normal, Dr. Fauci, specifically, what does that mean? Because even when I just took my shot the other day, they still said, we're still encouraging you to wear a mask. Even if you take your second shot, we're still encouraging you to wear a mask and things of that nature. So when you say normal, can you be specific about what you believe close to normal entails?
Well, what it's going to be is going to be really depending upon where you are and what the level of infection is. So if it's completely normal, that means that you could get on a plane and go to anywhere in the world and not worry about anything and not wear a mask. I don't think that's going to be that way for quite a while. In the United States, approaching normal, where we'll have gradual withdrawal of the need to be wearing masks, I think we'll be wearing masks longer than what we would consider normal. It will be, as Max said, kind of a new normal, where we'll be wearing masks under certain circumstances when you're out in the community and not a high percentage of people are vaccinated. If we can get the overwhelming proportion of the population vaccinated and the level of infection, namely test positivity, is very, very low, then we can start talking about going back from wearing masks. But right now, even though we're doing well, the baseline of the baseline of infections every day is between 50 and 60,000. That's extremely high. So even though things are getting much better, that's the reason why we still have to be wearing masks. A lot of infections still out in the community.
For sure. And Stephen A., you got your first vaccine. I can't wait to get mine as soon as I can sign up that day. I will be there. Dr. Fauci, I want to transition for a moment. I mentioned you've been running point for our country, but you also were a point guard on the court. So I've got some pictures. I need America to see the other side of you back in the day. And you provided us with a list of your top 5 favorite athletes. And I thought it's a pretty interesting list here. You got Cousy, Mantle, Curry, Scherzer, and Ham. But because you were a point guard, as we can see there from the photos, tell me this, 2 point guards on your list. Who do you think's the greatest point guard in basketball history?
Well, I hate to say the best, and that's why I said my favorite. But Steph Curry is amazing. I mean, Steph Curry, his ability to shoot that basketball at 3-point range. I mean, I was at a game right here in Washington, D.C. when they were playing the Wizards, and it was unbelievable. He was taking shots from a couple of feet past half court, and he missed like 1 out of 15. It was amazing. I mean, so I've got to go with Steph. I mean, he's just one of the most exciting players ever.
Dr. Fauci, it seems like you like short point guards with handles. It seems like you picked the 2 short point guards with handles. Is that right?
Well, that is true because I can identify to them. I was a quite short point guard. I wasn't really within the same range as them, but I could relate to them very much.
And did you have handles? I mean, Cousy was the guy who,
Yeah, no, I was actually, I was okay. I wasn't bad. I had a lot of speed back then. The game was mostly a fast break game, that type of thing, and that was my kind of game. So, I mean, if I had to go up and up against somebody taller than I am, that's a problem. You try to drive around them. But on a fast transition game, I was pretty good.
Dr. Fauci, you talked about your favorite players. What about your favorite team? Who would that be?
Well, right now, I live in Washington, D.C., and my favorite team was not last year, but the year before, Washington National Baseball team that won the World Series championship. What an incredible team that was.
You grew up a Yankees fan? Because I see Mantle on
I
the list.
did.
There you go.
I did. So I had a change allegiances. I was a very avid Yankee fan when I was a kid.
Of all the teams to give up, Dr. Fauci, I gave up the Knicks when I moved to L.A. The Yankees?
He's not bandwagon like you, Max Kellerman. Dr. Fauci, before we let you go, let's have a little more fun here. Who do you think's going to be in the World Series this year?
It's a tough call. I mean, I have to be loyal to the Washington Nationals, but, the L.A. Dodgers are really a very good team. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, and then let's go to the NBA real quick. Do you think the Lakers repeat again?
Yeah, I mean, they're an extraordinarily powerful team. I mean, anybody that bets against the Lakers has got a long way to go. So I wouldn't do that.
I don't think so. How about Brooklyn with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden? I like those chances.
Me too.
No, I do too, Stephen A. I actually do that a lot, particularly, when you play in Brooklyn, having grown up and learned my basketball on the outdoor courts in Brooklyn. Yeah. There's a lot of basketball spirit in that city.
Right. Especially they haven't had a champion since 55, a team since 57. They're thirsty. They're thirsty in Brooklyn.
Back in the day with the New York Knicks.
Unfortunately, Dr. Fauci has some more important things to do, guys, than talk sports with us. We could keep him here all day. Dr. Fauci, such an honor. And again, just thank you so much from the entire ESPN family. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.